All right, and now that that's starting, welcome everyone to our presentation. I'm Caitlin Bourbonnais from the Academics Department, and I'm very happy to have our guest speaker today, Cathy Branton, who is a 2022 honors graduate with me here today. Hi, Cathy.
Oh, hi, Caitlin. Thank you for the introduction and welcome to everybody today. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're in. And I just wanted to say it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to chat to you today about my CanScribe experience. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm not a public speaker, and in most cases, I would definitely shy away from any form of speaking in front of a group. But I also know the incredible importance of sharing thoughts and feelings with others. So that's why I'm here today. Since graduating, I've listened to a lot of the webinars that have been posted on the CanScribe YouTube page. And whenever I finished a webinar, I always came away with a new piece of information or more than one. And today, I hope that the same thing happens for you. So my name is Cathy Branton, as Caitlin said. I'm 58 years old, and I graduated from CanScribe about 6 weeks ago in February. I wanted to share just a little quick history of my background and how I arrived at the decision to take the CanScribe program. As shown on the slide, the different roles that I've had throughout the past 35 years or so have been varied. They're actually in chronological order. And on reflection, when I was putting the webinar together, I realized that most of the roles that I've chosen have arisen due to family or personal circumstances or the necessity to try to make the best choices to accommodate each situation in life, while at the same time gravitating to careers of my interest. My choice to take the CanScribe program has followed this same path. I love the quote on this slide, "We can't control the winds, but we can adjust our sails." And I'm sure everyone feels that same way in their life. It reminds me of the constant adjusting that we must do in life to manage the things that come our way. Ultimately, it was the continued adjusting to a new situation that led me to the decision to begin the CanScribe program. In 2020, I was still working as a PSW, and I had been working at this profession for 13 years, and I thought that this would be my final career. However, in January of 2020, I slipped and fell down a set of stairs, and my arm flew back to brace my fall, and I injured the acromioclavicular joint on the top of my shoulder. I tried to continue to work as a PSW, but I began to develop adhesive capsulitis, which is also known as a frozen shoulder. So soon my arm just hung at my side with minimal movement. And at that point, I knew that my career as a PSW was over. So then I began searching for a career that required no lifting, but still had a healthcare aspect to it. And I had remembered years before hearing of someone that did medical transcription as a career, and I had no idea what a medical transcriptionist did, but I did remember at that time being very intrigued. That lingering curiosity from years before led me to investigate the field of transcription and ultimately join CanScribe. I chose CanScribe because right from the beginning, I found any contact I had with the school to be timely and professional. I found the tuition to be reasonable, and CanScribe was the only school in Canada to have their program approved by the Association for Healthcare Documentation and Integrity. I began the program in last year in 2021 while still trying to figure out how I would ever achieve resolution with my arm. For me, the program became more than a new career, but it also became my support system while being in a very uncertain time in my life. Being immersed in the information and the learning filled my mind with new ideas and thoughts and kept me distracted from my constant thoughts about my future. Soon I felt part of the CanScribe family. My daily calls with endless questions were always met with such patience and an exchange of a laugh or two and encouragement. the instructors had a wealth of information, and I could tell that they cared about everyone's success. I love the organization of the program, and nothing gave me more satisfaction than putting a check mark beside each completed chapter. At times, I was frustrated with the learning curves and even questioned continuing, but I knew I was being filled with so much knowledge, and with this new knowledge, a little flicker of pride and confidence started to grow within myself. And as I continued through the program, that little flicker grew into a warm fire of pride, and I have no doubt that everyone who is past or present CanScribe students will understand this feeling that you get with your achievements. After I completed the program, always in hindsight, you have thoughts. I reflected on things that I might have done differently or put more consideration into. When I started the program, I was having trouble trying to embrace my own learning style. And I was always thinking about, well, I wonder what everybody else is doing, or did they buy the book, or are they just using the book of style online, and how are they? So I spent a lot of time thinking about what everybody else was doing instead of trying to focus on how my learning style is. My learning style is all about, once I embraced my own learning style, it became easier and my routine became easier. But my learning style is all about paper and pens and sticky notes and tabs. And recently I heard a young comedian poking fun of the slightly older generation, which I fit into. And the comedian said, "You don't have to print the internet, you know?" And that made me howl.
I love
Because,
that.
yeah, I am so famous for constantly printing information. In fact, during the course, I bought so many ink cartridges and paper, and I printed and I printed and I printed. And I'm not recommending that you do this, but I'm just recommending that you just try and settle into any way that helps you to learn, organize, or retain the information. And the picture on the slide, slightly embarrassing. Those are my books with all my tabs.
They're
Very
so
colorful
colorful.
though. I
Yeah,
put a
love it.
bouquet of flowers with it, show the colors. And
Hmm.
I'm sure that I'm a valued customer at 3M. Communication is another way to embrace your own learning style. You may prefer to use the chat box to speak to an instructor, an email, or a phone call. And the instructors are always fantastic and they accommodate and they get to know what students prefer in their form of communication. Another thing that I didn't do until the end was take time to watch the webinars or even to participate in a webinar, a live webinar. It wasn't until I was about 3/4 of the way through the program that I accommodated any time for webinars. I was too focused on my timeline to stop and enjoy the Wednesday or Friday webinars. And in hindsight, I would change that, because once I discovered the webinars, I couldn't stop watching them. And have gone back to 2019 and watched them. And even now that I've finished the program, I still watch the webinars, since there's so much information that I felt like I was missing out on. And the topics were endless, with guest speakers, grammar lessons, radiology, body systems, the book of style, like so much information. And to create a timeline, that was a problem that I had, that I became too strict. I'm sure other people probably run into this problem, but my timeline was so strict that sometimes I would turn down an invitation out or an activity, and then I would miss out on much needed stress relief throughout the program. So that's my little happy face about don't follow it. Join the Facebook group. Remember, I'm the girl that prints from the internet, so I'm sure that it wouldn't surprise you that I didn't discover the Facebook group until after I was finished the program. I'm not a Facebook user, but joined the group after I graduated and discovered what a wonderful community that is, to have people share ideas and job searches, frustrations, accomplishments. So those are a few of my takeaways. The practicum. I feel that a lot of people become nervous when they think about the practicum. I was the same. I think it's always the unknown that causes trepidation. And perhaps part of my anxiousness was knowing that the program was coming to an end. I had enjoyed the routine of the program, the stability of working towards a goal, and graduating, I knew, meant new changes and challenges to face. However, the practicum became a nice transition to the end of the program, and it was more independent work and it emulated the MT work world. With CanScribe, you can choose to organize your practicum over 4 weeks and complete 25 hours a week, or you can spread it over 5 weeks and do 20 hours a week. The platform used for the practicum is called Fluency, and it's very user-friendly. Before beginning, the instructions are giving on the new platform, as well as receiving the account specifics required. And I personally found the practicum to be more relaxing than the chapter work. And during this time, you have the advantage of having one instructor that is your dedicated mentor for the duration of that time. And Caitlin was actually my mentor during the practicum.
Happily.
The job search is my little notebook with my notes. When you finish the program, CanScribe will send you a list of transcription companies. The list is not exhaustive of all possible transcription companies or transcription work options, but it's a great list to begin with. Besides utilizing the list from CanScribe, I also created job alerts on Workopolis and Indeed and local hospital employment websites. Also, I have branched out and applied to ward clerk positions, registration clerk, local health record department. I dedicated a notebook to record all my job search information, and it's helpful because I can go back to an entry and add new information and any updates as needed. All the steps, every step that you take in your job search and the information that you gather will help guide you toward the best choices for you. In fact, during my research, I reached out to a very small independent company and had a lovely chat with the owner of that company. She was very kind. This company did both medical and non-medical transcription work, and the owner was very kind to just send me an example of what a non-medical transcription would be like. And I read through it and reviewed it and realized that non-medical work would not hold my interest at all. So I was grateful to learn that about myself, and then that helped guide me in continued direction that was better suited for me. During my research over the past month, just observing, I've noticed that there's been a lot of postings for in-person MT jobs in Western Canada. I don't know why, but there has been. I've just noticed that, like Vancouver Coastal Health, various health regions in Manitoba, Calgary, Edmonton, a lot have popped up frequently. I'm just pointing that out for those of you that might be in any of those provinces or cities. And from the Facebook group, I learned of a previous student a while back that obtained employment as a dental assistant. And it was because of her CanScribe training that the dental office was willing to train her for this role. So I feel like the workplace, especially in this time in history, is flexible. And with the solid CanScribe education, I'm confident that many different doors will open for graduates also. At this point, I have not yet secured employment, but I don't feel discouraged because I think it is just a matter of time before everything comes together. And since I graduated in February, I've been very fortunate to finally have had surgery to fix my arm and shoulder. And as I'm recovering, I'm feeling more confident to begin a new career. On this slide, you'll see actually a portion of my operative report. Sorry, it's a bit fuzzy, but you can see that the date is just March 23rd of this year, just last month. And I thought that this was very interesting to just give a small example of, since we do so many surgical reports. But after my surgery, I obtained a copy of my operative report from the hospital where my surgery was performed. the entire report is 2 pages long. And I found it to be so empowering to read my own report, to understand the procedure, and to read about the findings. So one of the great advantages to this program is learning about reports and your own health information. So knowing you have access to this information is, I feel, a very positive step in looking after your own health and your family's health. And prior to taking this program, I had no knowledge of my right to obtain this report or even what documentation was prepared following a surgery. The best part of everything is always taking time to celebrate. This picture is a picture that I took with my daughter a couple summers ago before COVID, but that just brings back memories of nice warm summer days and times when we like to celebrate. And this program provides many smaller opportunities to celebrate along the way. For example, the moment when you make your final decision to actually join the program, it's time to celebrate courage. And when you go to bed and you think you can't do another report, but you wake up the next day and sit at your desk and try it again, it's a moment to celebrate resilience. And when you make it through surgical reports, it's time to celebrate brilliance. Mm-hmm. When you get your reports back and you finally use the correct form of the word follow-up, then that's the moment when you want to take a sip of red wine. And I would just like to wish much success to all my CanScribe colleagues. And I thank you for the opportunity to share this time with you today. And I also want to thank Caitlin for arranging and helping to facilitate this webinar. And the next picture is a picture of Caitlin, and maybe Caitlin, if you want to talk about the funny coincidence that we discovered.
Yeah, so while I was Cathy's practicum supervisor, I had to let her know that I was going to be taking a week off to celebrate my 10th year anniversary with my partner, and we were going off to Tobermory, which is it's on the Bruce Peninsula here in Ontario. Cathy and I are both Ontarians. And she had actually been there with her daughter. I think it was a week or two previous to that, or
right, Caitlin, right?
Yeah, so we had both been to the same little vacation spot within a couple months. Which, it's not a very warm beachfront, but it is a beach that we could both travel to during COVID. So it was
right, and both off season. I think when I went, Caitlin, I was a couple weeks just before you went, and there were 2 restaurants open, and by the time you went in November, you had 1 restaurant.
Yep, just the one, but fortunately it was a good one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was the Tobermory Brewing Company, so they also have nice craft beers to celebrate with.
Exactly.
Yeah, so just gonna check in with our chat group, but so to kick off the question period, I just would like to ask you what your favorite and least favorite parts of the program were.
Sure. My favorite part was the opportunity to talk with the instructors, because I'm a phone user, surprise, surprise. So I really loved building that relationship with all the instructors, and knowing some days I'd be talking to somebody out west and Lisa on the East Coast, and just having that connection and the support and then shared knowledge was probably my favorite part. My least favorite part, but actually it turned around to become one of the, also my most favorite, is learning from your mistakes. So that is when you start the program, I realize you go in not knowing anything, basically, and you just keep learning from mistake after mistake. And at first it was painful. It was like, ouch. It was like getting zapped over and over again. And you get your reports back and you see the colors. And I would finish a report and I'd think, oh, there is nothing wrong with this one. This one is perfect. Then so that was hard at first with the learning from your mistakes, but now I appreciate that so much that I'm open to anybody telling me anything. Like, you got a problem with me? Like my kids or anything. You got something wrong, you just tell me, because I can take it all, right? I just feel like it really opens you to learning and being open to feedback. And yeah, so that actually became a favorite thing too.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because we always worry that students are afraid to reach out because they're afraid to look stupid. And no one here is going to think that. We've all come to this program from different backgrounds, and we all have different strengths and areas of expertise. And, you know, some people might not have a great handle on grammar, but the medical terminology is easier for them, or vice versa, or you know, labs are your sticking point, or those darn account specifics, which honestly, I had a hard time reading through those without my eyes glazing over for quite a while. So I had very colorful pages like you, where I just printed them out and highlighted things. And I think I'm kind of a hybrid between what you do and keeping some more digital format things, because I like to have everything in case I need to pick up my laptop and go somewhere. But
Right.
I love having the paper too. Around my office, I have, you know, clipboards with sheets, and the front page of them have a bunch of different highlighted colors, and then more references behind them. So yeah, it's good to have different ways of keeping information, making it accessible. So Anne says, thank you for sharing your experience, Cathy. I'm about your age, so I relate to your paper and ink comment. I'm glad that I discovered the webinars before the end of the course. They should be considered mandatory viewing. That's right. Yeah, we actually.
True. I thought that myself, right?
Yeah.
I love that point. Yes.
Yeah, we actually are trying to go through and see if we can edit some of them to be shorter videos that we can put into the course. It's hard because we don't want to stick a 1-hour video in the middle of, you know, an oncology chapter where students might already be pulling their hair out a bit, but with everything, all that content there. But yeah, there is a lot of good information there. Thanks, Anne. Suzanne says, editing the videos would be great on some of them. Oh yeah. Yeah, for cutting them down, pulling some info out. One thing that did occur to me as you were talking, Cathy, the in-person job postings, that actually might be due to the fact that there are a lot of MTs that are hitting retirement age. I mean, there's a lot of people hitting retirement age, right? Because we have the baby boom bubble starting to get there.
Right.
So that might be one of the first waves that we see with the job market post-COVID opening up, will be more in-person positions, because as MTs retire, they might want to move to working from home. And so that might start to change that job market search a little bit. So it's a good thing to, I'm glad you mentioned that, and it's a good thing for people to look out for, because even if it says they want you to already have so many years of experience, throw your name in the hat, because they might not have a great selection of candidates, or you might impress them in the interview. You never know. So it's always good to throw your name into any positions you see that you don't feel you're 100% matching, but it's sometimes they'll take someone with slightly less experience. Just, you know, it's how the market works.
It's true, Caitlin. And the other thing lately that I've been noticing is when I do look at hospital websites, even locally, not just in my town, but province, I'm surprised at how many transcriptionists are hired within the hospital. It's not every hospital outsources their work. Yeah, that's been another surprise for me.
Mm-hmm. because even the major transcription companies like Acuity and NTS will have a hospital liaison that you generally that is generally in person and is doing a lot of the kind of filing and medical office tasks. So that's another avenue that you can search through. And like you said, even looking into non-medical editing is another thing that you can try out and see if that suits.
Right,
But,
that's if it suits, right? I think the work that I was reading was policy information, and I had
oh,
the snooze button on in a hurry.
yep. I also looked into non-medical transcription a few years back because in Ottawa we have a lot of government positions, and this was for the House of Commons. And it even the pay increase didn't seem to be worth looking over. If you've ever watched a House of Commons debate, you might know what I mean.
Right.
Some of them can be interesting, but others are just a little bit dry. So, well, anyone who has questions, feel free to put them into the chat box. While you're still mulling over, I'm kind of wondering, did you have any reservations about the course before you began that?
Yes, I think my reservation was the unknown of exactly what it would entail, but also employment after. I think that was probably my biggest reservation, is fitting into that transcription world.
And the pandemic has been such a weird time for that, since a lot of people expected that the transcription work would go up, and with the lockdowns, it went quite far down.
Yes, I feel like don't feel, I feel that things are going to turn around for sure. And I'm looking every day, and almost every day for the last, give or take a week off for the surgery, but I've been applying to something. And I see things out there. There's small contracts, there's 12 hours a week for something. Like the positions are out there, and I'm just surprised at where positions pop up, where job ads from small urgent care clinics looking for somebody for 12 hours a week to hospital record departments. Yeah, there are jobs out there.
Yeah, and that's going to slowly build back up. And then once mandates really get lifted, there's going to be a huge backlog because here in Ontario, I think we're actually starting to get close to, last I checked, it was 250,000 surgeries were put on hold. And I think we're actually getting up to the 500,000 mark now. So that's a lot of op reports, and those all need consultations and follow-ups. So that's quite a bit of work that's going to start hitting the system once everyone's kind of back to normal. And we've been slowly lifting those mandates, but that's, there's going to be that backlog when that opens up again. So I had another question that I wanted to ask. You said you were kind of on the side of being too strict with your timeline. Did you find there were times when you were procrastinating on the other side of things?
Never. No, I'd have to say, like, to a fault, I had a strict timeline and not necessary. Like, here I am at the end. I've got time now. I'm looking for work. If I had taken an extra few weeks because I needed to collect myself or have a little break, no, that would be my problem too. I was too strict, which can be just as harmful as the other end.
Oh yeah, both can definitely create stress.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Anne asks, did you finish on time according to the schedule set on by CanScribe?
I actually finished a little bit ahead of time because I was not working at all. I do not have kids at home or other responsibilities like that. My children are grown and on their own. So I was able to just focus on the program only. I did not have a part-time job. It was my weekly task. So I was able to finish a little bit ahead of time, and I knew I needed to deal with my arm and getting surgery. So I was trying to account for that in the picture. I thought maybe I would have that looked after sometime through the program. So I was trying to get myself a little bit of ahead in case it was a longer recovery than what it's been. So yeah, that's.
That also answers Tanya's question, but Laura also asked, approximately how many places are you looking for your jobs?
I've probably applied to 30 different places at the moment. And what I have also found with some of the big companies like, well, Acuity, I've called them twice, so I know right now that they are only hiring scribes. In fact, I called them this week again and had direct communication with someone. So if you are willing to be a scribe, 100%, like they are hiring a lot of scribes and that position is open. But at this point, I still would like to do transcription work and I'm not interested in that at the moment. But she said, if you change your mind, get back to us. So those positions are available. I've also found that I've applied to a company and they have said there's no hiring at the moment. But then I'll notice maybe the next week that there's a notice that they are hiring. So I feel like some of the big companies, it might be more of a timing thing where you just get your resume in at the exact day or time that they are doing another hiring spree.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it might be more constantly checking in with some of those companies to hit the right time frame. I
Mm-hmm. And
think putting, or so go ahead, Caitlin.
those large companies can have a short memory, so it's not a bad idea to send your resume
Yes,
to them again a couple weeks later.
exactly. That's what I found. Like a month ago, I sent them off. No, we're not hiring. And then I'll see a posting that they are, but I don't think they might not go back and look at my resume. And yeah. And some places don't respond at all that I will ask, are you hiring at the moment? Some respond with an update on their situation. Some don't. I try to follow up. Yeah, I'm just putting a ballpark out there between local health unit, or not health unit, hospital, and transcription companies. I would say 30-ish.
Cheryl's asking, what is a scribe? Basically, it's very similar to transcription work, but you can be working off of a live dictation where you're sort of on the phone with a doctor during an encounter, or some of them are after the fact. Um, and basically, you're creating a record of the patient-doctor encounter. You're usually working with one or a few specific doctors, and it's more of a set schedule, and you're paid hourly instead of by the job. So it's not a bad job to start with, since most MTs coming straight out of college, you're not going to be making too much money to start with, because it's not hourly and because it will take longer. I found myself, it took me a couple months to even get over minimum wage, which was not a very fun time, but it can be a little discouraging. But then once you do get quicker and used to the flow of things, then your speed does really pick up. So it's a good job to check out if you're coming out of the college, and like Cathy said, a lot of places are hiring, and it's not like it's experience you can use to look for other positions later on as well. And a lot of them do also offer health benefits. So for people with families, that extra dental and vision provision can be quite helpful.
And also with that, Caitlin, Acuity has I think, a YouTube video with an interaction between the scribe and the doctor with the patient in the doctor's office and that whole role, and they run through the whole job. So if anybody's interested, it is online through Acuity.
Debbie is also mentioning that her daughter is working as a scribe now, and there are paid benefits and holidays. Yes, I've heard tell of this as well. And a new computer too. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even if you are like kind of thinking transcription is more what you want to do, while the job market is kind of in the flux that it is, it's not a bad thing to check out if you have the time, energy, and inkling. So there was something else a while ago that I thought I wanted to throw in for that as well. But actually, this is, Marie says, thank you for sharing your story. And I also appreciate that. I have a bit of a selfish question as a practicum supervisor. Was there anything about that you think we could improve on?
With the practicum, Caitlin?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know me, I love to talk on the phone and have... Oh, no, that was probably the hardest part for me once I started the practicum, is to realize, okay, this is the work world and you're not going to chat every day.
You know, and that's, I thought about that too. Like maybe we could make weekly check-in calls or something. And then there was another side of me that's like, well, but when it comes to working, a lot of your supervisors don't want to, they want emails. That's their preferred method of communication. So it is an adjustment that helps to make before you get out there. And especially just how you kind of think through your question process is a really important thing to kind of work on during the practicum, just because I always say it's good to reference anything you can with any question. So the format I like to use is, I was wondering about X, let's say dates. I know the account specifics say blah, but I was looking for clarification on this point. And that putting in what the account specifics or best practices or client profile, whatever that is, seems like a silly thing to do because they should know what their own account specs say, but it's just showing that you've done your homework. So
no, I thought that it was a really good transition between the school program and the work world. I really did. And as far as the communicating, and like you said, I've already researched this is what I think. Those type of emails back and forth were great practice.
Yeah, and you can kind of brush up your professional email skills at the same time. So it's good. So Cheryl's asking, in the practicum, is there still grading like in the course transcriptions, or is it a hope for the best or pass-fail type of thing? Do you want me to field that one?
Yeah, you go ahead with that one, Caitlin.
So you do have 12 transcriptions graded during the practicum 100 hours. I guess technically 13 since there's the report for the practicum exam. But it's, so you do have those counting towards your practicum grade, but it's more than just that grade. It's for your mid and final assessments, you have your professionalism, whether you're following directions, whether you're meeting the productivity requirements. And that's something we introduced just to help you adjust to having a working relationship, but then also contract positions can be a bit weird to work with. And it's good to try and start thinking about how you're going to plan your work when you have, let's say, in the practicum, it's range of 25 to 35 reports over 20 hours, or 30 to 35 over 25 hours. And so you're kind of taking a longer look at the week and how you plan that out. With a company like Acuity, they have part-time and full-time positions where you're doing either 500 or 1,000 dictated minutes per cycle, which is 15 days. So you can work that out, either divide it and see how many minutes you would want to do daily, or factor in days off. And it's always a good idea to try and front end load the cycle, so you want to get more done earlier than later, because as we all have probably had, at some point in our lives, you have a bunch of work that you want to catch up on, and that's the day that there's a storm and your computer blows out, or there's technical issues, or your computer just doesn't want to agree with you. It wants to do 10,000 updates right when you're in the middle of work. So it's always best to plan for those types of scenarios. And, if you meet your timeline, take a day off, right, Cathy?
Yeah, right, Caitlin. Mental note. Next time.
Yeah, taking time to celebrate. It's always a good thing. So do you have any advice for students for staying on task?
I think, like you said, having your timeline of how many reports you want to get done per day spread out over the week, and looking at your week, and if you have other commitments. And people, I don't know how people manage that attempt this with full-time jobs and kids. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work for sure. Mm-hmm. So, and congratulations to everyone who has all those extra things on top of the course.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think for the people with kids, noise canceling headphones are definitely an investment that will pay off through the course and your future.
True.
What kind of headset did you use?
What kind of a headset, Caitlin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't like any headset that's like a headpiece over my head, so I just used the iPhone headset, that just like the little earbuds in my ear, and I found that those worked the best for me.
And I have a little set of Bose noise canceling earbuds, and man, when I put those things in, I feel like I'm in one of those deprivation tanks.
Oh, nice.
So Suzanne asks, Cathy, I'm just a bit older than you, and I'm wondering if memory was a concern for you.
It actually always is. Suzanne, yes, definitely. In fact, I thought, oh, what if somebody asked me a question from the program and I forgot? I thought, oh, Caitlin, I need you. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
I'm only in my mid-30s, and I have my own moments, so I always wonder, does the memory get worse, or do we just start noticing more when people get older? So I don't know, but yeah, Suzanne says she can relate. Yeah, that's where the sticky notes really do come in handy, in all those tabs.
That's right.
Yeah, I was reading about different learning styles, and apparently, even if you have a preference for visual or auditory or social, or Suzanne says she thinks I might be right about noticing it more. I honestly think we scrutinize the elderly just slightly more on that one. But yeah, apparently, no matter what your learning style is, everyone is a bit of a tactile learner, and some tactile learning techniques can help you. So having the books with a million tabs, you're actually using that tactile sense to help reinforce where things are,
Right.
and some of the information there. Same with when you're reading. Apparently, if you underline with your finger, or they say it works the same with a mouse, but I'm not sure how much I believe that one. But underlining the text as you're reading it can also help memory retention.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And getting up and moving around even can help just for getting some energy into your bones.
Okay. Good points.
So Debbie says it's definitely a different challenge learning at 50-something than 20-something. Absolutely. And Suzanne says, I love the color of your tabs. Sorry, the photo of your tabs. Love the color. It looks so organized. Yeah.
It's colorful.
Yeah. Well, anything you can do to brighten the workspace a little. Why not?
Right.
Do you have anything not related to the course that you keep at your desk that is a necessity?
A cup of tea.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
Yep. I have my constant tea as well. So we're kind of winding down on time. If anyone has any remaining questions, now's the time, because the last one I'm going to ask, just for a fun one, what's your favorite type of tea?
Favorite type of tea?
Mm-hmm.
Orange pekoe. Yeah, and not much into the herbal teas, but yeah, the standard orange pekoe.
Yeah, it's a good standby. I'm a big fan of. I have a lot of tea hanging around. So I have some English breakfast, some Assam, some Earl Grey, some Picos. They're great. So Megan says thanks. Anne Marie say thanks for sharing. Anne asks, did your injury impede your computer interaction?
Not at all. I was able to, use my arm for typing, so that was a bonus. And that just was one thing that I could do, so that was encouraging for me, for sure.
Good thing it wasn't carpal tunnel.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
Tanya asks, has anyone utilized Microsoft Office website? I find Excel is my go-to for data. I would like to know the most cost-efficient way to utilize Excel. Did you use Excel yourself much in the course, Cathy?
Excel's a bad word for me. I actually did have a job interview last week with my local hospital, and it was for clinical secretary, and the job ad had transcription as part of the duties, but in the interview I realized that there wasn't a lot of transcription in the job, but more in the job was Excel. They were reinforcing they needed someone to make schedules, and that made me shake. So I'm not an Excel girl.
For cost efficient ways to use it, Tanya, the one thing I would maybe suggest you check out, so Google Sheets is a free spreadsheet software that you can take a look around at. It's very similar to Excel. It just might have a little bit less in terms of the same functionality. So that's a good one to check out. And also, there was one that I used a while ago. Oh, I'm going to forget the name of it now, of course. But there are some free document creation software packages out there that you can search for. I think Google has basically overtaken them all, because the reason I can't remember what it is I switched over to just using the Google one. So I think that might have nixed a bunch of the other smaller ones. So yeah, Andrea says, thanks so much. Very encouraging, especially as another over 50 needing a change of jobs. Mary also says, thanks so much. 'Twas nice hearing from a recent graduate. Suzanne says, I discovered I had to go back and make friends with Excel when I learned about the word lists and found I enjoyed it. Also use OneNote for notes. Easy searching. Yes, very much so.
Very good. I've got to get over that hump. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you to everybody for today.
Yeah, we've got a lot more thank yous coming in. So thank you, Cathy. I really appreciate you coming out. And It's always been a pleasure talking to you, whether it was your questions before the practicum or during or now after. So thank you so much for joining me for this.
You're welcome, Caitlin. Pleasure.
And thank you for all the students who came out. I think, unless you have any final parting words, I think we can end off here.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and have a wonderful Wednesday.